So how can you as a business owner work to practically elevate your business, to help to grow it, to help people to trust your business, to help get you booked out? Well, graphics and your branding have a lot to do with this. And I would love to teach you today the 5 steps on how you can create an elevated brand for your business so you can accomplish just these things. Let's get into it. So my name is Jacqui and I am the head designer, CEO and coach at White Deer Graphic Design. And pretty much I am a graphic designer whose passion is to teach business owners how they can create their own standout brand and graphics, and today particularly elevated graphics. I love doing this work and I hope that over the next weeks and months you'll journey with me as we learn heaps about creating our own graphics. I have a podcast as well and you're welcome to go and search that out. I'm so excited to teach you today on how you can create your own elevated brand. Firstly, what is an elevated brand? An elevated brand is a brand that looks professional. Like you can have a really, like if you can probably think of what an unelevated brand is. An unelevated brand is probably that kind of brand that looks a bit unprofessional, looks a bit mismatched, looks a bit untrustworthy. And so what we're aiming to do with an elevated brand is the exact opposite of that. Because when you have a brand that people instantly trust, that people instantly connect with, and people instantly feel, that's a business that I know that I can rely on, then there is huge, huge benefit that can happen for our business because people no longer need to spend weeks and months or years getting to know our business. They can see our business and say, hey, I know what they're about. I want to trust them. And there's also that piece of you feeling that sense of pride in your business as well. And so an elevated brand is that brand that looks professional, a brand that looks trustworthy, a brand that is readable, and a brand that is beautiful, a brand that is cohesive and consistent and considered and thought through and actually looks the same across all of the different touch points, and a brand where it's actually relevant to your audience. And so today I'm going to take you through, I guess, how you can do those things for your own business. And there's going to be 5 different steps we're going to go through because an elevated brand is going to help you to set the stage for your offering. It's going to help your audience to know at a glance what your price point is and how much value you're going to share. It's going to help them know how affordable you are. It's going to help to create anticipation on working with you. It's going to help to create buzz and like excitement around that. It's also going to help to nurture your client along their whole client journey, because a client working with you isn't just the first time they see you on Instagram. It's not just the first time they book with you. It's their whole journey from first hearing about your business all the way to the final time that they're working with you. And so how can we nurture them throughout that journey? And the final piece of the brilliance of an elevated brand is that it just exudes this professionalism and this trust. And so let's look into those steps that we can do today. So the first thing that you need to do is to know your business inside out. I think at the start of our businesses, we often kind of plan things out, or sometimes we just rush straight in. So I don't know which camp you're in, whether you have been in business for 5 years or so, and at the start you kind of plan things out, or maybe you just rush straight in and kind of was like, I'll go back and plan later. Either way, if you haven't done a good kind of plan or think through about your business in the last 6 months, I really recommend doing that. Sitting down and working out, what is my exact price point? What is my exact, what is my mission? What are my exact services? What are my exact products? What is the client journey like? Do I want someone to just buy this once-off product or service from me, or do I want to take them on this journey where they first purchase this from me, then they go and do this over here, then they might go do this over here? What is that journey? Like, who is your audience? What kind of people do you work with? What kind of people do you best serve? Because that's going to help you really, really begin to nail down what makes you unique so that you can craft your branding and your graphics around that. Now, brand is a word that gets thrown around a lot. I'll probably do a whole episode just on what a brand is. But in essence, a brand is untangible elements and tangible elements that culminate to create what your business is. It's when people think of your business, what they think of. That's your brand. It's your brand voice. It's your brand mission. It's your business's values. It's also the way, which is what I talk about a lot, the way your business looks. And that can come down from not just your logo, but your social media posts, your colors, your fonts, your overall style. Everything visual that anyone ever sees your business is a part of your visual brand. And I want to make sure we really tackle that today. So the first step is really to know your business inside out, not just to think you know it, because if you only have a rough idea what your business is about and like, yeah, so to me, I think I do this kind of thing. If you don't know it like wholeheartedly, then what that means is that when someone comes across your business, they're going to feel confused, because if you're not 100% sure, then how are they going to have any clue at all? So that first piece is just knowing your business inside out, like really thinking that stuff through. The second step is kind of putting legs on that first step. It's to research your audience and your values. Researching your audience and your values. When you know your audience and your values, you can create graphics and designs and a brand that like capture the idea of these things. So for example, if your business's values and the way you want people to feel when they work with you, for example, is like, say you're a day spa and you want someone to feel really calm and relaxed and taken care of and soft and all of those beautiful things when they work with you, You would not use colors to represent your branding like red and bright pink and yellow, because those colors promote like movement and happiness and yeah, kind of vibes. And so for like a day spa, they all have blues and greens and these soft pastel kind of colors, because those colors share their business's values. And so what are your business's values? Research those. So in that first step, you're really knowing what your business's values are and what you want people to feel when they work with you. And the second step is really fleshing that out. Like, what are people to feel and how can you represent that through your graphics? Research what are colors that help people feel calm? What are colors that help people feel inspired? What are colors that help people feel motivated? All these different things will help you to kind of key in your branding to really represent those things. So when someone glances at your business, they're like, whoa, I understand what's happening here. This makes so much sense. And when they come through those stages of working with you, everything is clear, everything is concise, and everything is beautiful. And the second part of that is also researching your business and your audience. So who do you want to work with? What do they love? Like for our business, sometimes we just guess, we just do things that maybe just we love, or we just do things that we think our audience might love. But what you really need to do is, once you've kind of worked out what kind of people you want to work with, beyond just women, get specific. Women in business, maybe women in business who love this, women in business whose passion is helping other women in business, or like try to get specific, because when you get specific, you can really target things down. Because the fact of the matter is, no one will be drawn to your business if you're just vanilla. You'll get maybe one or two people that really like vanilla things. But other than that, by vanilla, I mean really plain kind of things, or graphics that don't speak anything in particular, and particularly don't speak to your business. And so how can you create graphics that really draw in your audience, that really say, hey, this is what I'm about, and I know that you're going to be drawn to this, and they can look at your branding and say, oh, this business is clearly for me. Like imagine like my business and my branding is purples and oranges and pinks and blues. It's really bright and fun because I want people to feel really bright and fun. And then my audience, the people that I want to work with, my target audience, my niche, my ideal client avatar, whatever you want to call it, they are drawn to fun things as well because they want to have fun in their business. And so I didn't do a brand that was really neutrals and calm, even though those are beautiful brands, because the kind of people I want to work with are probably slightly more like, whoa, rather than, like, and that's not to say like, that's definitely a generalization. A lot of the clients that I do work with do still really like those neutral things. But for me, when I was researching my audience, I knew that the kind of way that I worked and the kind of audience that I wanted to work with were those ones that had a lot of fun. And so that's what I represented through the way that my graphics looked. And so thinking through, like, it's kind of like a beautiful culmination of what do my audience love? What are my business's values? And also there's a third piece of what do I love? If you're a personal brand, if your business is based solely on the product or service that you provide, then you've got a personal branding and you've got a personal brand. And so think about ways that you can represent you through your graphics. And so imagine if I was a really like a neutral kind of gal, then I wouldn't probably do bright colors for my branding because that just wouldn't feel like me. I need to feel represented through my business. I need to feel proud of my business. And when someone more importantly says, hey, I want to work with Jacqui at White Deer, then they need to think, that makes sense. She's fun and a little bit silly and a little bit like bold. If you saw my bright colors and you worked with me and I was like, hi, my name is Jacqui and today this, like, it's just a different vibe. And that kind of person is also totally valuable and beautiful, but their kind of branding should probably be a little bit more subdued. And so thinking about how can I represent my audience, my values, myself through my graphics. I'm going to do a whole other episode on this, so don't stress if you're feeling a little bit confused about all that. There's a whole what I call the WOW model that I've created around this, where it's thinking about the culmination of those three things to create your branding. But in essence, for now, just thinking through how can I research my audience. And so even talking to your audience, talk to past clients, talk to dream clients, ask them what they love, ask them what graphics they love, ask them what colors they love, ask them what fonts they love, and see if there's any patterns in there. The third step to creating an elevated brand, all of these kind of go in together. You can't just skip a step. You can't just do one of these steps. It's the culmination of these things that creates elevated brands. If you're like, Jacqui, I don't see an elevated brand yet, it's coming. The next step is to create a consistent value, like style and visual guidelines. So create consistent style and visual guidelines. And that kind of sentence seems a bit overwhelming, but all it means is I'm going to decide on what my business is going to look like 100% of the time. Because when you have a brand that looks consistent, and by consistent, I should probably explain it. By consistent, I mean the same colors everywhere, the same fonts everywhere, the same style of graphics is everywhere. And so when someone comes to your Instagram, it looks the same as when they go to your website, which looks the same as when they get your flyer, which looks the same as when they get your emails. All of these things look the same. And that consistency really, really promotes recognizability. For one, it means that when someone sees you somewhere, it makes sense to them. That means that they can recognize recognize you when they've seen you one place and then they see you somewhere else they can recognize you. It means that if they're scrolling their Instagram and they're like, oh, Jacqui does purple colors. Oop, there's a purple post. I wonder if that's Jacqui. And they stop and take a look. And so there's that recognizability. There's also a sense of loyalty that gets created of, I'm starting to recognize this brand. I'm starting to form a connection with this brand because it seems reliable and it seems like something that I can recognize and keep coming back to that same thing. And so learning how you can create a brand that is that consistent style, using those same graphics over and over, because it's going to help people to recognize you and to form that loyalty with you. And the third beauty of a consistent brand is just that idea that it looks professional. When I see brands where they're just trying one thing over here, then trying a different pretty thing over here, then trying a different pretty thing over here, which I get is so tempting to try different pretty things. As a designer, that's a weakness of mine. But it's really important that we do consistent graphics, and those consistent graphics are going to help people to think this business is professional. This business has thought things through, and this business knows what they're doing. Because you can imagine if I've done all this research and decided that my audience is really drawn to this beautiful red color and they really like these bold fonts. If I all of a sudden did a post that had cursive fonts and a light blue, then I'm no longer attracting my audience. I'm no longer representing my business values, and I'm no longer representing myself, because at the start in that step 2 and that step 1, I decided what these colors and these fonts would be for my brand and for my business. And it would be a disservice for not only my consistency, but also my research and what I know is going to connect with my audience to just pick something different for a different graphic. A lot of people, when they start working with me, they're like, oh, I just didn't realize that I was meant to do the same kind of designs all the time. And a lot of us, we feel like, oh, if I just do the same kind of designs all the time, it's going to get boring and repetitive. Boring and repetitive is magic because, well, not necessarily boring, but repetitive means that you can really build that consistency. You can really build that connection. You can really build that loyalty. And my friends, it saves you time. When you no longer have to open up a Canva design and say, oh, what color am I going to do today? Because you didn't think through what, like, you don't know what colors you're going to do today. And maybe last week you did purple and the week before you did orange. You're like, oh, what am I going to do this week? No, when you have that style guide, you're able to do the same thing over and over again, knowing that it's connecting with your audience because you've done that research, knowing it's representing your business's values because you've done that research, and also saving so much time because you no longer have to go to the drawing board. Every single time I create a graphic, I know that it's either going to have a purple, blue, or peach color base. And I just create that. I know what fonts is going to go on there. I know what photos are going to go on there because I know what kind of style of photos my brand loves. And so all of these decisions are made for me. That means I get to step up and be the CEO of my business rather than getting stuck all the time spending hours in Canva because I don't know where to start. And so not only does it save you time, it also, that style guide will help to elevate your brand because people are forming connection with it. They're forming a trust in your business because you seem reliable. You've thought things through and you're using those things over and over. And they're building a recognition towards your business, I guess. All right, so that's number 3. The 4th step is to be proactive about how you're crafting content that connects. So there's 2 parts to this. The first part is this idea that you can have graphics that are communicating really, really clearly. And so just as a fun fact for you, not a fun fact, a really important fact that is also fun. Design is about communication. Design isn't there to look pretty. The purpose of design is to communicate. If your designs aren't communicating, there's no reason to have made them. Like, design isn't about looking beautiful. Art is there to exist to be beautiful and to communicate to some extent if the artist has a real purpose behind that. But design isn't there to just be beautiful. Design is there to communicate. And if your business's graphics aren't communicating, there is no point to you wasting your time having created them. There's no point to you of sitting down on Canva, making a graphic, posting on Instagram. All of that was pointless if your graphic isn't communicating. If it isn't clear what your message is, if there's no obvious connection there with your business, all of these different things. So there's a few different ways that you can communicate with your graphics. Firstly, it's just a matter of making sure that your content is relevant. And so that's the second part of this, I guess, is that if your content is relevant, is it relevant to your business? Is it meeting your audience and your clients and your future clients where they're at? Is it saying, hey, I know this is where you are and I can help you achieve this? Is it helping them by showing them little nuggets of what they can achieve, of how you can help them? Or is it just you saying, oh, here's what I ate today? I mean, if what you ate today is relevant to your business, then go for it. But if it's not, moving away from just posting random things or sharing random content to really honing in on what does my audience need and how can I help them with that? I'm not saying to not bring in part of your personality because that's really important, especially for a personal brand. So maybe even thinking through what are some things I can weave throughout my brand that relate to me. So for example, for me, I weave in not just graphic design and business tips. I also weave in my daughter because I have a beautiful toddler. I weave in a little bit of motherhood and I weave in a little bit of cheesecake and a few different random things that people just connect with me as well. And so I weave in those things, but I don't also post about when I go water skiing with my husband. I don't also post about my parents. Like I've considered a few different parts of myself that are really kind of relevant and help me connect with my audience, and I share that, but I don't just share everything. So thinking about making sure your content is relevant to your audience. But going back to that communication piece of how can you create graphics to communicate? And so graphic design, there's ways to do it and there's ways to not do it. There's ways to use your text really, really cleverly. So say, for example, you have a whole post thinking through what is a piece of text on here that I can make really large that's going to capture my audience's attention when they're scrolling? What's a piece of content on here that's not so important that I can put down the bottom? What's a piece of content that's going to help my audience to make sense of this graphic? Maybe some dot points or maybe a sentence that expands on things. And then arranging that in a really beautiful way, a way that takes your audience on a visual journey. It's a thing called hierarchy, and I love to teach it. And it's this idea that your brain will, I'm going to move over here so my video editor can put a picture here. It's this idea that you can take your audience on a visual journey of what's most important in that graphic. How can you see, how can your audience just at a glance understand what that graphic is about, decide then if they want to keep reading it, and then they're taken on a visual journey through that. That's going to help you to communicate in a really, really strong way. Beyond that, there's things like choosing readable fonts. Beyond that, there's things like making sure that your imagery is relevant to the message you're trying to communicate. Like if you're trying to do a masterclass on teaching people how to jump, have a picture of someone jumping. Simple things like that. Just make sure that your graphics are communicating really, really clearly. There's lots of other things that I love to teach, but I'm going to tell you afterwards how you can actually gain access to a very special workshop I have that's going to go a lot deeper into all of these topics that I'm teaching you. All right, so that's number 4. Be proactive about crafting content that connects and resonates with your audience. And the final step is real intricate. I'm joking. It's actually just to keep doing what you're doing. Those steps, those 4 steps that I just showed you are really only powerful if they're committed to. So steps number 1 and 2, you really only have to do once every now and then, like researching your audience and knowing your business inside out. But steps number 3 and 4 of having a consistent style guide and sticking to that, and then crafting content that communicates and that connects, doing those 2 things over and over again is where the power comes in. If you just create a style guide, but you don't consistently use it, the magic's lost. If you create one really great graphic that communicates, but your next one people don't even connect with, they're not going to start watching you because they're like, I don't want to look at that graphic. It doesn't make any sense to me and I don't really care about what I'm looking at it. Then the magic is lost. Your brand is no longer being elevated. But when you start to really commit to these things, when you say, I'm going to be proactive about crafting the really great content, I'm going to make sure I'm always using the same colors in my branding, the same fonts in my branding, the same style in my graphics, that's going to help you to connect with your audience in such a wonderful way. It's going to help your audience to say, wow, I really, really love what that business looks like. I'm just drawn to them and I don't know why, because you've done that research at the start. It's going to really connect with them. It's going to help them to know you're serious about your business because you've thought through the content, you've thought through your branding, and you're sticking with that. You're in it for the long haul, so they know that they can trust your business. Like if I see a business that doesn't look that interesting or doesn't look like they've thought through their branding, I usually just think they're either a new business or they're just kind of a side hustle. And side hustles are great, and businesses can be really beautiful as side hustles. But maybe they're a side hustle that maybe does it once a month and they don't really consider their business very much. I've actually got one of those businesses that I treat more as a side hustle. And we don't really want to work with those businesses because they don't feel like they're committed to us as a customer, as a consumer, as a client. And so we want to make sure that when someone looks at your business, they're like, wow, that makes so much sense to me. I connect with that brand. They're so considered. They've thought everything through and they just connects with me. Another point I want to mention that I kind of should have brought up in the research and your values kind of stage is this idea that you can also communicate your price point and your value through your graphics. And so I'm going to put some examples on the screen now. I'm going to move over here again. There's 2 pizza menus here. Which pizza would you pay more for? Now, both of these pizzas may be even almost the same, probably not, but when I go into a pizza restaurant and I'm handed the red menu, I'm probably going to be like, cool, $5, $10 pizza, amazing, looking forward to a quick eat. Or if I go into the pizza shop and I'm handed this black menu, then I'll probably say, that's probably going to be like a $30 to $40 pizza. No worries. I understand that's what the value is, and I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to really enjoy this great pizza. Whereas if I was to walk into a restaurant and I was handed the red menu, but the pizza was valued at $40, I would be so confused. I'd be like, this looks like kind of more of a cheap takeaway kind of pizza restaurant. Why would I pay $40 for that pizza? And so we can really craft and help our audience to understand how much we charge in our business just through the way that our graphics look. So if we're a really luxe high-end brand, create a brand that looks that way. If you're charging $100 for a vase, have a brand that looks like you're charging $100 for a vase. Use really neutral tones. Use really professional and really like luxurious fonts. keywords, and do those things to make sure that your brand resonates with that. But if you just sell a $5 vase, don't you dare go creating a brand that looks really luxe, because people are going to get confused. They might not even shop with you because they don't understand that your branding is actually, you have something to offer that's cheap. Some people are looking for expensive products, and some people are looking for cheap products. Some people are looking for expensive services, and some are looking for cheap services. So making sure that you can create a brand that looks what you are, looks what you charge, looks what your value proposition is. And so that helps people that when they go to your website, when they go to your Instagram, they're like, this is a really premium service. I'm going to save up some money and get excited to work with this person. Or this is a really affordable service. I'm so excited to work with them tomorrow because I don't have to save up for it. Both of those businesses have a beautiful place. Make sure your branding shows that. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm hoping to share a lot more of these videos. And I hope today that you've learned how you can create an elevated brand for your business. I've actually got a workshop coming up on February the 16th. So if you're watching this before February the 16th, 2023, I would love to invite you to my workshop. It is called Elevate Your Brand, and it's a really great experience where you can work one-on-one group with me. And I'm going to teach you the real ins and outs of what I've taught to you today about. I'm going to show you some really great examples. I'm going to give you action steps. I'm going to step you through everything so that your brand can be elevated to the point where your customers are being drawn in just through looking at your business. Your clients are excited to work with you because your brand looks incredible and it's just drawing them in. How you can elevate your business across all these different touch points, particularly on Instagram. And I'm going to teach you how to do those things. I'm going to show you really great examples of creating hierarchy, of how to take really great images, on how to lay out your graphics in a really clear way, how to be super readable, how to be really communicative in how you connect, and so much more. Plus at the end, there's going to be an opportunity for some hot seat coaching. It's all done via Zoom, but pretty much I'm going to ask you to send me some of the graphics you've been working on. I might audit your Instagram post. I might audit some of your Canva graphics, and I will edit live your graphics and teach you how you can improve those, how you can elevate your brand even more. So all of that is coming up on February the 16th. I would love to have you join me. If you can't join live, there will be a replay available, but make sure you grab your ticket. There are limited places and tickets are only $50 Australian, GST included. And normally this kind of 2-hour workshop that's this intricate and this value packed would be around $300, but I'm offering this for just $50 because I want this to be something that anyone can join and have a really, really beautiful elevated brand experience, particularly for those of you who are DIYing your branding and your graphics on places like Canva. So thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel because there is a lot more content coming your way. In the meantime, I'll see you next time. Bye.